Okay, so ducks with guns. That works for me. Hello, my gaming brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan, your host here at QuickBird Gaming, and I appreciate you tuning in for another weekly news wrap-up, all the gaming news that's fit to cover. This week this video is going to cover this last week, which is 19 and 25 October. And we got some stories to talk about. You got to talk about the announcement of a remake of Halo 1, which is going to be spreading its wings much farther than Xbox. We're going to be talking about the latest Pokemon game and how well it's doing, and some of Todd Howard's empty promises from the Fallout Day announcement. As always, if you're interested in a particular story, please look down in the description box, and all of the stories are timestamped so you can jump to the one that really interests you. But before we get to all that, we have to talk about this latest indie craze, Escape from Duckov. We'll open up with this article from Insider Gaming, which was published on Wednesday, 22nd of October. Escape from Duckov sells 1 million copies in under a week. Escape from Duckov, a sensational single-player extraction shooter, has taken the PC world by storm, selling more than 1 million copies in under a week. In just 5 days, the title from Team Soda, which is a parody of Escape from Tarkov, obviously, has sold more copies than some AAA games managed to sell in that same time frame. The extraction shooter is a lighthearted take on a very serious genre, but presents a nice challenge and an entertaining PvE loop for fans of the niche. It is proving that the most bizarre games can find success in the extraction shooter space. The single-player extravaganza, yes, Insider Gaming, we see what you did there, puts players in command of a duck, forcing them into a world gone bad and charging them surviving against all odds. They must accept and resolve quests, upgrade a hideout, take on other bird-based enemies as they explore a harsh world and abide by survival mechanics. They said in the first 24 hours they sold 200,000 copies, but now in 5 days, they've sold 1 million. And I mean, clearly, this is an unqualified success. From what I've read about the guys at Team Soda, I think there are a whole 5 core members to that group. So it makes it much like Team Cherry, obviously, who produced Hollow Knight and Silksong, with a core group of 3 people. You sell 1 million copies. It's clearly, going to be, clearly it's a critical hit, with the players anyway, and it's going to be a financial success. And go over here to the Steam database and just to take a quick look, and you can see they hit their peak today, 280,000 players concurrently online. That is amazing for an indie game. And if you look at the chart, you can see it's just grown from 145 to 170 to 220 to 236,000 players. It's gaining momentum each day, or it has so far since launch, as of Saturday evening when I'm making this video. So this is just going very well. And we can go to the Steam Market page. They're showing 95% positive with almost 2,500 user reviews. And, the system specs are not that demanding. A mid-range processor, a GeForce 2060, which is a mid-range or even an older card. And then you start getting into the reviews. Unfortunately, this might be the best extraction shooter. Feeding ducks with bread? No. Feeding ducks with lead? Yes. Complex base. This has everything you'd want. Complex base building, cool customization, progression system, tons of different enemies, great soundtrack and fishing. It just goes to prove, once again, that if you give the players something they can really sink their teeth into, it doesn't have to have the best graphics. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to have that $500 million budget to make it a success. And games like this, and I know I'm beating a dead horse when I talk about this, but games like Schedule 1, and games like Silksong, and games like Balatro, and even games like Expedition 33, which I am playing right now, and I will say it is excellent. These games are proving that you do not have to have a 10,000 person studio. Yes, I'm looking in your direction, Ubisoft, and spend hundreds of millions of dollars to have an unqualified hit. It's just that simple. Give the players something they will enjoy. And to back up that previous point about giving the gamer what they want, I'll turn to this Eurogamer article, which was from Friday, October 24th. Pokemon Legends Z Alpha sold more in a week than Pokemon XY, 5.8 million copies, with roughly half on Switch 2. And the article states that it's what it says, what I said in the headline. Roughly half these sales were on Switch 2. And the number includes both physical and digital copies of the game, makes it one of the highest selling Pokemon titles in terms of first week sales. And I looked up, and it looks like on Switch, the game was $60. On Switch 2, it was $70. So you're going to figure about $65 average as a sale price for these. And if roughly half of them are on Switch 2, they would have hit that average. Okay, and it talks a little bit about the game here. And this is another example of a game that was probably produced for a relatively low budget. I can go back to this October 16th article from Games Radar. Pokemon Legends Z Alpha only needs to sell 200,000 units to break even. Former Nintendo marketing leads estimate, so, quote, they should inject a bit more money into these things just so you don't have crappy trees and windows. Okay, so according to these two individuals whose names were Krista Yang and Kit Ellis, they discussed it in a recent podcast, and there's actually a link to the video in this article, and I will link the video down below if you're interested in it, and the whole podcast. But following the purported Pokemon Mega Leak, two former Nintendo devs, said that they only needed to sell $200,000 to make back their development cost, which would be around $13 million if you go with their estimation based on the $60 to $70 price tag. And said, and they said the marketing budget, which for this series is usually significant, isn't factored in. He says, I'm pretty confident that Pokemon Legends Z Alpha is going to eke past 200,000 units sold. So it's a remarkably low number. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sold 27 million copies between them. And then they talk a little bit about why they think that why Nintendo isn't investing more into these games, because they are so lucrative. Now, I've watched a lot of videos in the last week about people talking about Pokemon Z Alpha and kind of bemoaning that they're, ironically, in a game that's about evolving your pocket monsters, there's no evolution in the game, and it's basically the same thing over and over, and that it's not a very high quality game. Now, I can't speak to that. I haven't played it. I would guess that's what these two marketing leads are kind of referring to when they make their statement. Why hasn't Nintendo put more into this game? And I'm kind of I got a two-pronged answer to that. My first one is obviously they don't have to. If they literally did only spend $13 million on this game, even if that is off by 3, the factor of 3, and they spent $40 million on this game, look how well it sold. You have a built-in audience of people who are going to buy it. And I have also, in addition to all the negatives I've seen plenty of people talking up this game and how much they enjoyed it. And you can argue, well, just because people enjoyed it doesn't make it a quality game. That's fine for you. If they enjoy it, though, if they feel like they got their $70 or $60 worth out of the game, then so be it. Whether or not Nintendo spends a ton of money, and I'm certainly not shilling for Nintendo because I don't think they're a great company. Whether or not they spent a lot of money on this game or should have spent more to make a better product, they gave players something that they actually wanted. And the Nintendo fans are happy to have another Pokemon game. It's not for me. I know it's not for a lot of players. It's not the kind of game I would buy, especially based on the things that I've seen about it. And I played some of the old Pokemon games back in the Nintendo DS days. This doesn't look like something that would interest me. Frankly, just watching the gameplay compared to Palworld, this looks like a pale imitation. But that's irrelevant. That's just me. It's what the players want. They made a game that the players want. They made a game that the players will buy. And they didn't have to spend a ton of money doing it. So, if you're a Nintendo Pokemon fan, this is a win for you. Take it and run. I'm glad you have something you can enjoy. Next up is this article from Video Game Chronicle from Friday, October 24th. Confirmed, Halo is getting a campaign remaster and it's coming to PS5. And this is a bigger deal than you might think, and we'll get into the reason why. The Halo series is coming to PlayStation. It's been announced for Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. Halo Campaign Evolved is a full remake of the campaign portion of the series' first game, Halo Combat Evolved. While no specific release date was announced, Microsoft has confirmed it will launch next year. It will feature 4-player co-op and completely rebuilt visuals. The game has been developed in Unreal 5. That could be good or bad, just depending, given the way some games, at least even recently, have struggled on UE5, like Borderlands 4, Metal Gear Solid Delta's remake, Mafia Old Country, just to name a few, have really had problems on Unreal Engine. You've had a few exceptions. Like I know Claire Obscura was written on the Unreal Engine, and my experience thus far has been very smooth, and I haven't heard people complaining. So this really could be a hit or miss issue. Or I mean, it could be good or bad. This fully rebuilt campaign will reintroduce remastered 4K visuals, beloved weapons, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and this talks about that a little bit. Well, there's an ad that we don't need. So it's Halo is getting a remaster, and it is going to be coming to PlayStation. Like I said, this is kind of a first. I'm going to flip over to this article from MP1 from Wednesday the 22nd. Xbox president says, I should have said MP First. My apologies. MPFirst.com. Xbox president says exclusive games are, quote, antiquated. For years, Xbox built its image around exclusive games, titled that defined its consoles and gave players a reason to pick Xbox over others. Franchises like Halo, Gears of War, and Forza were the core of the Xbox brand, but that time seems to be fading. Little by little, Microsoft has been moving away from exclusives, choosing instead to make its games available on many different platforms. Sarah Bond, the president of Xbox, recently stated exclusive games are basically antiquated, and the market is beginning to evolve past this old tradition. And we can kind of see that in the way that, Xbox and Microsoft are handling these games. Halo, like this says here, was one of their core exclusive franchises, was for decades, and now it's going to be on PlayStation. So that's kind of interesting. They're spreading their wings out, and whether or not this is a good strategy or not, it remains to be seen. PlayStation has kind of done the same thing. They're not as direct about it, like recently Ghost of Yotai, which I'm still waiting on official numbers to come out so I can talk about the sales there. Ghost of Yotai being a first-person exclusive, just like Last of Us and Spider-Man and some of those series were, the Ghost of Tsushima and Yotai. All of those series were exclusive and eventually migrated over to PC. But as far as I know, they haven't come to Xbox at all. I could be completely wrong about that because I don't really track what's on the Xbox store, but I thought I remembered seeing they weren't. They're on PC. So they're starting to spread out a little bit. And this, getting back to Microsoft, this is interesting because we can look at this article from Thursday the 23rd of October. Microsoft has reportedly pushed Xbox studios to deliver a 30% profit margin, allegedly leading to all those layoffs, canceled project, price rises, and the end of exclusives. And this article talks a little bit about things that Microsoft has done over the last year. A new report has shed light on the goings-on at Microsoft, which has allegedly pushed Xbox studios to deliver a 30% profit margin, much higher than the industry average. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that Microsoft's 30% profit margin goal had led to the gaming's division huge layoffs, canceled projects, controversial price rises, and multi-platform push. And this talks about a bunch of the things that were canceled this summer, including Perfect Dark reboot, ZeniMax, which is Bethesda's parent company, MMO being canceled, Rare's Everwild being canceled, closing down Arcane Austin, the developer of the, say, Dishonored series. I know they developed Redfall, but I'm not going to hold Dishonored against them. I will hold Redfall against them. And Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks. So they've canceled projects and shuttered studios. They've raised the price of their hardware. They tinkered with the idea of going to $80 video games and tried to do it for Outer Worlds 2, but eventually backtracked to $70. Here's the key point. Bloomberg said the average profit margin in the video game industry is 17 to 22%. Over the past 6 years, Xbox has hit 10 to 20. To put it in context, Sony's PlayStation division achieved a 16% profit margin in quarter one of fiscal year 2025. So, I'm sorry, I've scrolled up too fast. Where was it? The upshot now is, according to Bloomberg, that games that are cheap to make or considered more likely to make lots of money may take priority over riskier projects. Xbox's floundering hardware division, meanwhile, may face a significant rethinking. So we skip back over here and kind of think about Halo in context of what we just read. Are they putting Halo out there because they want to get it in the hands of more people? Because they want more people to experience it? Hell no. Do they want more people to buy it? That's what the answer is. And this really makes me leery and worried about anything under the Xbox umbrella because it's now going to be all about money. And people could say, well, it was all about money before. And my counter to that would be, it's not all about money when you hire thousands of needless people that your company can shed without making a lick of difference in the quality of games you're putting out. You know, if you fire thousands of people and your games sucked before and they still suck, what was the difference? Clearly, it wasn't about making a huge profit. I think this means we're going to see more lazy, more lazy Call of Duty reruns again and again every year. You're going to see a new Call of Duty game. It really wants me to buy that drink. You're going to see more and more Call of Duties, at least one a year, keep coming out. You're going to see all these other franchises migrating to try and find a wider audience. Makes me wonder how many more cash grabs with mass microtransactions and a lot of DLCs that don't add a whole lot to the game. It makes me wonder how many more projects from that we're going to see coming out of Microsoft. My guess is a lot. And just to drive that point home, I submit this article from IGN from Thursday, the 23rd of October. Todd Howard reassures Fallout fans as Fallout Day 2025 ends without a brand new game reveal. Just know we are working on even more. Fallout Day 2025 has come to an end without the announcement of any new games. Yes, there's a new version of Fallout 4, a new Fallout New Vegas bundle, and new content for Fallout Shelter and Fallout 76. But there was no word of any Fallout remasters, which some had hoped for, or, less likely, Fallout 5.
Dear Lord, that's the loudest profanity I've ever heard.
Although a lot of this is disappointing, absolutely none of it is surprising. This is par for the course for Bethesda and Todd Howard to just milk the absolute living fuck out of an IP like they did with Skyrim, where they kept releasing an iteration more and more of Skyrim, and a special edition, then an anniversary edition, and a gold edition, and a diamond edition, and an edition that they give away free, a discount edition with a Happy Meal. This is what they're going to do now with Fallout 4 and New Vegas. They're just going to keep milking these properties without actually doing anything with them. And that's pretty much what I alluded to in the last segment with Microsoft, just trying to monetize their IPs over and over without actually doing the one thing that would help them, which would be to produce another good game. I've said before on this channel repeatedly that Fallout is my favorite video game franchise. At this point, I'm more nervous than excited about a Fallout 5 coming out. I think it's going to end up being some kind of half-baked abomination that shouldn't be released. After Starfield, which was, I haven't played, but I've watched enough of the gameplay to know that I'm not sure I'm interested. Elder Scrolls 6 is almost 15 years. I mean, we're always 15 years since the last Elder Scrolls game released. Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be at least 15 to 17 years past that, past the previous one in the series. I don't have any hope it's going to be great either. But they're going to keep milking it, keep pulling in that cash for these properties. I guess I'm just glad I have several different versions of New Vegas and Fallout 4 that I can continue to play, especially with the mod community out there. Although with this release, they're talking about, a anniversary edition of Fallout 4 for the 10th anniversary. It's going to release next month, I guess. That's probably going to break all the mods. They got to get Todd out of there. Next, we'll turn to this PC Games In article from Wednesday the 22nd. After 21 years of waiting, Bloodlines 2 Steam reviews are exactly what I expected. After 2 decades of waiting, Vampire the Masquerade 2 is out in the wild, but it's getting a lukewarm response on Steam. That's it. Okay, so this reviewer talks about how it's, their intro into it. There's not much to love about Bloodlines 2. Putting the horribly poor optimization aside, its story consistently falls flat, combat is messy and joyless, and progression system isn't really a system at all. If your optimization is bad and your combat in a game is bad, and the progression, the story are bad, I'm not sure what else you have left there, really. Okay, and then the reviewer says, but my main issue with the game is the name. While they describe it as a spiritual sequel, there's actually no through line with the first game. Sure, there are lore snippets and random letters or familiar face, but it feels like cheap throwbacks. This isn't a Bloodlines game. This is Vampire the Masquerade. Seattle, excuse me. This sequel is in Bloodlines in name only, reads one review, with another stating if it's not a true successor to the original, then they shouldn't have named it as such. Others home in on the game's performance and the lack of in-game options. You can't remove motion blur, for example. So, and this is, goes on and talks about, the problems that it's having. Really, this is another game that people have waited for forever, and it has not done well. And you wonder why I am not really excited or looking forward to a Fallout 5. Here on the Steam page, you can see they're sitting at 57% positive with 3,200 reviews. And you can scroll down and read some of the reviews. And there are a lot of positive ones that talk about it. But, there are a lot of negative ones too. And they're saying the RPG elements are not there, though. And they said, not like the first game. It's a good game, but don't get me wrong, it's not like Bloodlines 1 and never will be. And that's coming out of positive reviews. So this game was not what the fandom was expecting. And now we can go look at the Steam database, and you can see the peak player was 27,000. They're down to less than half of that. 5,000 players online right now. And this game released 4 days ago, and it's already halved its player count. This is going to be another one of these games, I'm afraid, that within a month, player count will be down to a couple hundred. I don't know if they can qualify it as a success based on sales. I haven't seen any sales figures yet. But it's certainly a disappointment to a lot of people who were looking forward to a game. It was pushed out the door probably because they needed to try and recoup some cost of the development cost. And here we are. Since we're doing so well right now on the state of the games industry, I want to talk about this Game Rant article from Wednesday, October 22nd. Remedy CEO steps down following continued FBC Firebreak struggles. Remedy Entertainment CEO Tero Virtala has revealed he will be stepping down as the company's CEO. This news comes just weeks after Remedy Entertainment announced to investors that sales for its most recent game, multiplayer title FBC Firebreak, are struggling to hit the studio's internal targets. Now, this article goes on and talks about Tero Virtala and his role as the CEO and so on and so forth. But I think here's the pertinent part. With a change in leadership taking place, it's not clear what the future of Remedy has in store. As of now, the sequel to Control is still in development. Alan Wake 2 left the series open for another chapter. Remedy has made a name for itself as a narrative-focused developer, so it'll be interesting to see if this change in direction will continue down that path or experiment with more multiplayer spin-offs like Firebreak. And I will absolutely say they should not do that. They should not continue down that path. Why do you ask? Steam database. That pretty much says it all to me. 25 players for your peak player count for a game that you spent years and who knows how much money on. What are you doing, Remedy? What are you doing? I really liked Control. I played the first Alan Wake. I mean, I could have taken it or leaving it. It was fine. But I really liked Control. I thought it was one of the best games I've played recently. Very unique environment and some unique combat. Why Remedy got away from that, I have no idea. And when they made Alan Wake 2, they made it a game store exclusive, an Epic's game store exclusive permanently. I think Epic funded them for that, which is why. But if you're going to put a game on PC and not put it on the platform that's got 85% of the player buyers on it, that being Steam, what are you doing? So anyway, this, I think Remedy's next game will decide their future. And again, we may see some IPs that just get tossed over to somebody else to use or lost in purgatory. And that'd be a shame. Like I said, I think it's a unique universe. I hope they can save it, but guess we'll see. I'll finish with something positive, and that is this article from Games Radar, which was published on Saturday, October 25th. Palworld dev advises players to stop defending games online and play them instead. Quote, pop open Megabonk or something and just have fun. A Palworld developer has some words of advice that would make the internet a much more tolerable place if everyone simply complied, and it essentially boils down to go play Megabonk. Pocket Pair's communication director and publishing manager John Buckley probably saw one too many brain-frazzling tweets this week and decided to tell everyone to go touch games. If you like a game and you find it fun, nothing else matters, he tweeted. There are no battle lines, no sides, no factions or teams. You are free to enjoy any game you want, and you don't need to justify that to anyone. There are no exceptions. Play whatever you want, gamers. Sometimes I think we need to hear that, just to be reminded of why we're in this hobby in the first place. If you find a game you like, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You just go play it. Which is why I'm not, regardless of what some people might think about the Pokemon game that I mentioned earlier, Zed Alpha, if people like it, they should play it. And, I mentioned Palworld when I talked about Pokemon earlier, as I thought just to my eyes, watching the gameplay, Palworld looked like a better game. And then I hear the Palworld dev say something like this, kind of makes me want to play it even more. But really, don't forget the core message here. If you find something, enjoy it. And further down here, he says, next time you feel compelled to jump into a comment section to defend a game, try just not doing that. Instead, pop open Megabonk or something and just have fun. The discourse doesn't exist outside of social media. It doesn't matter. Play games, enjoy games, gaming. And as the article says, hear, hear. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave this one here. This is my 50th news video I've done. I've been doing this for a year already. It doesn't seem like it. Time has flown by, but I am still enjoying it, and hopefully some of you are too. If you enjoyed this video, please do the YouTube stuff to subscribe, to leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the stories being presented. Also, if you have a games channel or you know of a games channel that you could recommend, feel free to comment with that down below. I'm always looking for new sources and other people's opinions to watch. I know about the Game Ranks and the Skill Ups and the What Culture Gaming. I am aware of those big channels, but especially if you've got a small creator that you would like to support, throw their channel down below. Let me know about them. I'll check them out. Okay, gonna call this one here. Again, thank you for tuning in. You all go out there, live your best lives, and you all stay gaming.